Please remain seated. The show will begin in 3, 2...
Like a Hellcat.
Hello, ghoul friends. Those who are freaky chic, fans the supernatural, and all things spooky. I'm your host, Phantom Traveler 87, and welcome back to my channel. My very own dark, creepy corner of paradise, where I dive deep into the exploration of the unknown, the unusual, the morbid, where for a moment we must suspend our disbelief. For there are many possibilities that perhaps the other world truly does exist, hidden behind the veil of our subconscious. Now, for those who are skeptic, I humbly ask you, I implore you, to open your mind. As I said before, those who have gone through something traumatic, they become sensitive. They develop a sixth sense. They hear and see things that others can't. Whether you are home alone, by yourself, while your parents are out to dinner, or you're babysitting someone else's kid, or you're staying up to study for a big test, or maybe you're at the school library, wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, sometimes that will pick up something that maybe you don't understand. Not completely. It is human nature to become curious and have questions. But sometimes, when we do take a risk, we must assume that there is some sort of danger. Maybe we don't know it at the time, but potentially, there's something evil that walks among us. Maybe we don't always see it. Maybe we don't always hear it. Maybe we don't feel it at an instant. But it could be there. It could mimic a loved one. It could put you in a false sense of security. You never know, which is why you must be wary of your surroundings. In this story, especially, if it may look innocent and harmless, that's not always the case. Things are not always as they appear to be. So, be cautious. Don't get too comfortable. Not all the time, because you never know what to expect. Whether you hear a weird noise, maybe the creaking of floorboards, or you see something run past, or something standing within the shadows. It could be something. Maybe not your imagination. So remember that. It could be something paranormal. Now, it's okay if you don't believe, unless you see it for yourself, unless you hear it for yourself. But as I said before, please keep an open mind. Suspend your disbelief, because one day you may find that you may be a bit surprised one night when you're going downstairs to get a drink of water and you hear footsteps, the little pitter-patter of feet running past you from behind. And you may think that you're tired, perhaps. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe you've worked too hard. You haven't got enough sleep, and maybe that's the case. But please, just for a moment, while you're listening, just suspend your disbelief. And before I continue on with this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to get all notifications for future uploads. And if you have a story of your own that you would love to have submitted and to have narrated by me, please go directly to my business email at givesyouvings.com@gmail.com. And again, thank you so much for listening. Your support is always appreciated. A lot of time, energy, love, and effort goes into these projects, and it wouldn't be possible for me to upload if it wasn't for that kind of motivation. So without further ado, let's climb back into the burial vault for the continuation of this story. This is He Has Haunted Me Since I Was Little, a Chuck E. Cheese creepypasta written and narrated by yours truly. Now, you may find that some of my videos will have 1 to 2 parts, then parts 3 through 4. Sometimes I do merge 2 parts together because I like to have longer videos if it's possible. So, let's just dive right back in. I hope you guys enjoy, and at any point if it becomes too frightening for you, feel free to exit the video at any time, but please don't forget to drop a like and a friendly comment. Positive feedback is most helpful. Thank you. This creature lunged toward me, baring its ravenous, drooling, sharp, yellow teeth, and letting out this horrid shriek, and in one strong, forceful, aggressive swing, I struck the beast in the jaw. Its face was smashed in now, one eyeball dangling from a red wire. I swung again and again, hitting it hard in the chest, and then swiftly whacking the left side of its face, and knocking its head completely off. The head flew, and it landed inside of the stone furnace, which sat across from him in one corner of the room on the right. Loud screeching and out-of-worldly, demonic cries of pain emitted from the beast, before the severely scorched head had rolled out of the furnace and landed right smack in front of my feet. The body of the prototype had dizzily stumbled around before collapsing to the hard cement floor with a sickening thud. Bones, guts, intestines, a pulsating, bleeding heart had all scattered along the lifeless corpse of the thing that since childhood was truly dead now, and could no longer hurt me, fill my nights with constant paranoia and fear. That night, the police arrived, and my grandmother, who was so delirious and seemingly enraged of seeing me exit the basement, still breathing, had tried to kill me by stabbing me with a knife. "What have you done?" she screamed. "You are dumb and foolish to think it's all that simple. This is not the end. It will not stop until it's fed again. You have doomed us all." My grandmother was admitted to the psych ward for the remainder of her years, and I had gotten the call when I was 24, a college graduate, that her body was found in a strange, disturbing way. She had died from congestive heart failure, the doctor said, but there was something about how she was positioned, the look on her face, that made me question what really happened. My parents, my grandfather, and I went to the coroner and we inspected the corpse. My grandmother's body was just as they described, how her arms and legs were in such a bizarre angle, twisted in such awkward proportions. Her head was facing backwards, and her spine was clearly visible from the bare flesh of her skin that protruded from her hospital gown. Nobody covered her with a sheet because when anyone had even tried to operate on her and perform an autopsy or start the embalming process, as requested by my grandfather, some crazy shit would go down. Anyone who tried to touch the body would immediately go insane. A few nurses would hallucinate and start convulsing. They would throw themselves on the ground and cower in the corner, shaking and trembling, pointing at absolutely nothing. They said it was staring at them and it was laughing. My family and I are completely perplexed at this, and we're trying to figure out what was going on. There was a full-on investigation, and to this day, nobody has an explanation about it. I have been living on my own since 18 years old, and ever since my grandmother passed, I had received a lump sum of money from her will, and everyone in the family had split her possessions. So any Chuck E. Cheese merchandise and collectibles she kept in her basement, my grandfather, my mother, and me all got to pick and choose what we wanted. It was a free-for-all, and truth be told, I didn't want any of it. I was happy with $6,000, but there was one item that stuck out to me, that I used to have in my bedroom when I was a toddler. And I barely remember it, but my parents said it was the one thing that kept me entertained, and even though they didn't like the idea at the time, they didn't want to hurt my grandmother's feelings. It was a portrait bought of Chuck E. Cheese from the 1977 opening of the, quote, first restaurant in San Jose, California. I personally didn't feel fully comfortable with having this thing in my apartment, but I seemingly had gotten over my fear of animatronics at this point, since my last encounter with the prototype, which was long gone, probably turned to scrap some years later. So I had the portrait bought, strung up on the wall by my patio doors, and I didn't have it turned on, seeing as it needed some repairs done and I didn't want to further damage it. Now, Chuckster's Dine-In and Arcade, which was developed in 1973 before the so-called official Chuck E. Cheese restaurant in 1977 opened, furthermore, the dry run location that ran off and on through several changing hands of ownership eventually closed permanently after my grandmother passed and was demolished. I was relieved, and I really thought I could move forward with my life peacefully, and I felt a weight was taken off. I think back to those events, and I sometimes wonder if I over-exaggerated some things, that I was imagining any of it. So one summer my family came to visit me. My parents, my grandfather, my aunts, uncles, and cousins. We were all hanging out in the living room and eating pizza. The younger kids, June, Mary, Eric, and Lucy, were surrounding the portrait bot, wide-eyed and grinning, poking at it and playing with its arms. I told them to be careful and had gone into the kitchen. All of us adults were socializing, drinking coffee, and talking about life in general. That's when something weird occurred. In earshot, me and the other adults in the kitchen had heard squeaking, and we stopped talking. We were listening silently for a moment as the squeaking got louder and louder. Then we heard bellowing, panicked screams coming from the living room. The kids were freaking out, and the left hand of the portrait bot was tightly gripping Eric's wrist. The gears were turning, and the head was moving. Its jaw moved up and down, making this janky, clicking noise, along with the squeaking. We were all dumbfounded, and I had rushed over to pry the hand off of Eric's wrist before checking for an off switch to deactivate this thing. But there wasn't one, and I realized this thing ran on a sensor, and I had a plug installed, a wire that ran across the wall. But I saw the plug was lying on the wooden floor. It wasn't inserted into the outlet, and my aunts and uncles were yelling at me angrily, demanding answers. I tried to tell them that it was impossible for this thing to turn on without being plugged in, and it just didn't make any sense. The portrait bot then stopped moving, and my family, except my grandfather, left quickly after that. My aunts and uncles were so sure I was pulling a prank on their children, trying to scare them, and everyone else came to my defense. My parents and grandfather said that it had to be faulty wiring, and still I just couldn't fathom this. They decided to spend the night, and I had gone home around 8:30 that evening after a long, tedious shift at my office job. I am an artist who is on call usually to help clients with home renovations, like paint their walls and do interior designs. I was exhausted that night, and I went to the kitchen to reheat leftovers. I then had placed my cheese pizza slices on a plate and sat it on the coffee table. I had gone back into the kitchen and grabbed a root beer out of the fridge. Then the same thing happened like all those years ago. My apartment has a top and bottom floor, and a basement where I keep a lot of junk. I heard the door to the basement creak open and slam shut. I then heard heavy metallic footsteps coming down the hall and towards the stairs. I listened as the footsteps lasted a good 20 minutes, and note that it's completely dark in all other areas of my apartment, except the kitchen, and there's a dim light of the full moon in one corner shown through the curtains of my patio. So I walked quietly to the bottom of the stairs, and I looked up to see a shadow of something moving at the top. My vision was blurry, and I was on medication, so I was still a little out of it, and my brain was trying to process what I was seeing. This figure had disappeared as soon as I blinked, and then I shrugged, rubbing my eyes. At that moment, I'm wondering, if I ought to go upstairs and just check every room. No, I thought to myself, I'm tired and hungry. I worked 13 hours. I just need to sit down and relax, eat, and then go take a hot shower. So I did. And the next event happened when I was in the shower. I had my bathroom door shut and locked up tight. I stayed on the bottom floor, and there was 3 other rooms on the top floor. The basement, the attic, and a guest bedroom. I was shampooing and rinsing my hair, and then I paused when I heard a light tapping sound on the bathroom door. Then the tapping turned to loud knocking, and then violent banging. Did someone sneak into my apartment? But how? I know I secured all the entryways, including the windows. I remembered the basement door, but when I came back to see if it was actually opened, it was closed. I'm losing it. Maybe it was my mom. She had a habit of getting out of bed a lot to do random, mundane tasks. Cleaning helped soothe her. It helped maintain her sanity, but somehow I had this feeling it wasn't her. I turned off the shower and got out, wrapping a towel around me. I then approached the bathroom door and reached for the knob. At this time, the noises stopped, and I slowly opened the door. There was nothing there. I had gotten dressed and brushed my teeth before going to sleep. In the middle of the night, I heard the basement door creak open, and the heavy metallic footsteps again. My bedroom door was locked, and I was sitting up in bed, very creeped out. Then came the light tapping, then the loud knocking, and the violent banging. I called out, "Who's there?" No reply. I called out again, "Hello? Who's there?" Then I heard it. The all too familiar voice of a demon.
Hey, it's Jackie. Open the door. I just want to play with you. Don't you want to be my friend?
For more awesome content, like and subscribe now.